Hey there, guys. All right, today we are back with some more of the Great War, and we are on to week 215, Red Terror in Soviet Russia. I think we are officially less than 10 weeks away from this being over. That's still so weird to think about. If I sneeze, that's because it's allergy season, and I currently hate my life more than I normally do. Okay, before we dive in, make sure you go and check out the links in the description box below. I would love if you join the Discord and follow me over at Twitch, and please do go check out the gaming channel here on YouTube. All that said, let's dive in.
You want your former ally to come back into the war, but their new government wants none of it. Well, you could attack them with your armies and try to force them to join you, or maybe you could bribe
That's kind of fucked up. Allies, what are you doing?
their government guards to murder their leaders and then install the government of your choice.
Well, that sounds like the Western powers doing something funky.
I'm Indy Nidell.
Because Germany pretty much already did that. They already paid for that. It worked out for them.
Welcome to the Great War. Last week, the Canadians, the British, the French, and the Americans all made headway on the Western Front, as the Germans effected a general but limited retreat, finally acknowledging that their positions were untenable. Sir Douglas Haig was making plans for a big offensive there. Over in Baku, the Ottomans were beating the British by force of numbers, and the Allies were by now in both Murmansk and Siberia. This definitely worried Russia's Bolshevik leaders. Back in July, Lenin told an audience that Soviet Russia had reached its direst period. This was maybe true, since after the events so far this year, Russia was now only about the size of 16th century Muscovy, and the civil war was growing and growing. He had reason to worry, since on the 31st, the Allies took Bolshevik positions 75 miles south of Archangel on the...
You know, it's not fair. Like, let's take a look at Lenin here. The man can pull off this hairline. Like, he doesn't look bad with that. And I am jealous because I know that if I were to have this, I would look disgusting. Not people, man. I need money so that I can afford the pills and product or whatever that can keep this.
Allies took Bolshevik positions 75 miles south of Archangel on the Volgoda Railway. And also this week, the Japanese captured Khabarovsk, north of Vladivostok. It was an important regional base. On the morning of September 3rd, Pravda and Izvestia ran sensational front-page stories announcing that the police had discovered and broken a huge Anglo-French conspiracy designed to overthrow Soviet leadership and install a new government that would bring Russia back into the war. The papers alleged that the plot, known afterwards as the Lockheart Plot, was based in Moscow under the direction of Robert Bruce Lockart, chief of the British diplomatic mission to Moscow, and French Consul General Fernand Grenard. There was also a certain Sidney Riley, the ace of spies who we did a whole special about, who had spent over $1 million rubles to suborn the Red Army troops that guarded the Kremlin. Over the rest of the week, the papers added details. It was specifically the Latvian rifles who were to be bought, and the plan was to arrest the entire Council of People's Commissars, shoot Lenin and Trotsky, and install a...
God damn. It's fucking a fast escalation there. Arrest them, shoot those two. But interesting how let's take a moment to really actually like look at that. Shoot Lenin and Trotsky. Stalin isn't mentioned yet in 1918. Not Stalin has been mentioned, but he isn't I guess he isn't seen as popular or as crucial to the communist regime here in Russia. So of course, communist and I've already ranted before that communism, it is not communism if it's an authoritarianship. Communism is commune, and you can't really be a commune or a community under a dictator chip. So, yeah. Anyways, the Soviet regime here, um, yeah, it's interesting to not hear Stalin's name included in that who must be shot
military dictatorship, but
at
the
this point in
Latvian
time.
rifles turned out to be unbribable. Okay, that's one version of the story. However, in Spies and Commissars, Robert Service says the plot was anything but alleged, and the French newspaper Le Figaro correspondent René Marchand, who wrote to French President Raymond Poincaré about the plot, a letter the Russian press eventually also published, also went to the communist authorities and told them of the plot. The Czech
You know, it's these things that just make you wonder. Like, when we look at the history also of the Middle East, um, it's just like what the Western powers end up doing in these countries or attempting to do. You kind of just wonder how how can how can the West ever expect these countries to trust them, right? Like how is it possible at all for any other future to go than for Russia to have immense animosity to the West because of what the West is explicitly doing here, trying to get them back into a war that they do not want, that they have already fought, went through two revolutions for to try and seemingly stop because like the Tsar was fucking up so badly. So then the February Revolution I thought kind of had this idea where there was a belief, I think anyway, that the provincial government would stop it, and then they didn't, and so then the October Revolution happened, and they stopped the war, right? Like what? What? I don't understand the thinking of political leaders. I don't. They just have no foresightedness. And then they will espouse history as if they understand it when they clearly fucking don't. Because if they understood history, they would know not to do certain fucking things. Because then they would understand that that is only going to cause problems in the future. Like a certain current president of the United States continuing to side with Israel. It's not good, Chief, what they're doing. Stop supporting it, because it's only going to get you more enemies in the region. You fucking dumbass. And especially when I'm going to get into a little fucking rant here. Because especially when the largest voting bloc of your country has been very explicit in what they support and what they want. I don't think we have really ever seen a generation so unified in directly stating what exactly they want than what we are experiencing right now as Gen Z voters in America. We made it fucking clear. And they're not listening. And it's like, literally, if Biden loses in November, there is no one to blame but him and his administration. Because they had fucking a year ago, the same time, 2023. As long as I don't remember there being any scandal, any fucked up shit happening around then, or at least nothing like, a genocide in the Middle East. Um, eh, he had it in the bag. He had it in the bag, and then it's like, what the? He had the easiest. He probably had the easiest fucking incumbent race in American history, outside of FDR and Reagan. Uh, Sorry. Anytime I speak that name, I just want to puke. Um. Oh man, what the fuck? Anyway, sorry. I got triggered by stupid Western political machination and intervention.
The secret police already knew, though, and after Lenin was shot and badly wounded August 30th, and the chief of the Petrograd Cheka was assassinated the 31st, hundreds of Allied officials and residents were taken into custody. The British Navy...
Hold on. I'm going to take a guess here because I do not know. So if I'm wrong, also, I just do not know. So I cannot be at fault for not knowing because this is not my... That's a random... Like, so many people come into my comments and I'll be like, how the fuck are you a historian when you don't know this shit? It's like, I specialized in an area. Historians are specialized in niches within history. We're not gonna fucking know a bunch of stuff, okay? We're gonna know a bunch of stuff about a specific area. Outside of that, we're not gonna really know shit. Like the dude who oversaw my who oversaw my senior thesis in university. He was a American environmental historian. So I had to explain to him when we would do our check-ins, because he was a curious, right? Historians are generally curious people. So he was not at all familiar with Anglo-Saxons really at all. He knew like the most basic stuff that you would have heard and maybe some minor tidbits here and there that he would have picked up on from other people in the faculty, because I know we had one medieval historian, specifically medieval Frankish historian, in the faculty. So yeah. Anyways, what was I ranting about? Oh, yeah, my guess. This is a chaotic episode. I woke up today and I had things to say. Is this effort by the Western powers, is all this going to end up actually aiding Stalin's rise to power? Because we just heard about someone, like some security person getting shot, killed. I have a feeling that karma is Stalin rising to power for what the Western powers tried to do here in the Russian Civil War.
Naval attaché in Petrograd was murdered by the Bolsheviks in the embassy building.
Oh no, the Bolsheviks murdered. Okay.
Lockart was arrested, and Riley fled the country. The Cheka claimed that under interrogation, Lockart said that London had sanctioned the assassination. Lockart denied this, was freed from prison, he had supposed diplomatic immunity, and was exchanged for Maxim Litvin.
But you don't have diplomatic immunity when you're a spy. So.
Held by the British along with several other Bolsheviks as guarantees for the safety of British subjects in Russia. The main result of all of this was that the Cheka proclaimed a red terror to root out other opposition and officially reinstated the death penalty. This week, 5,000 socialist revolutionaries were sentenced to death by the Bolsheviks, and a woman named Dora Kaplan was executed, believed to have been the person who just shot Lenin.
28 years old.
In Lockhart's memoirs, written in the 1930s, he categorically denied having any part in an assassination attempt on Lenin and blamed the whole thing on Riley. Riley by then was long dead. The Allies weren't only advancing in Russia, they were still advancing on the Western Front. On the 2nd, spearheaded by the Canadians, the British Army broke through the German lines on a 37-kilometer front. This was at the Drocourt-Quéant switch line, called the Wotanstellung by the Germans, and it had been a vital cog in their defenses. 2 Canadian divisions and 1 British, with 59 tanks, attacked at 5 in the morning. The switch was made up of 2 lines of trenches with concrete shelters and machine gun posts. The wire belt was apparently 100 meters wide, and parts of it had to be cut by hand, but the Germans surrendered in large numbers. British Commander Sir Douglas Haig would comment that many of them did so without a fight and that they seemed to be running away. His strategy of endless attacks up and down the front was working. The effect on the German forces facing this pressure was like a dam moving under the weight of floodwater. The wall shifts, almost imperceptibly at first, then a small breach appears, and then, if the pressure is maintained, the whole edifice, in this case the entire German line, is in danger of being swept away. German Quartermaster General Erich Ludendorff called the order to fully withdraw the 25-odd kilometers to the Hindenburg Line. This happened at night for the rest of the week. He has now decided on a purely defensive strategy. The Hindenburg Line must hold at all costs. The Germans had already been withdrawing from the west of the River Somme, and were of course using the river as a protective barrier. But on the 31st and the 1st, in an operation designed by John Monash, the capture of Peronne by Australians forces the Germans to abandon fortified positions on Mont Saint-Quentin. A lot of the British attacks now, disproportionately many, were led by the Anzacs or Canadians as battering rams. This was both a testament to the soldiers themselves, still potent after 4 years hard fighting, and to their leaders, John Monash and Arthur Currie. And the top Allied brass was busy making new plans. Last week, I talked a bit about the big combined Allied offensive to kick off at the end of the month, specifically the American part of it to attack to the north, west of the River Meuse. As for the French attack, it would be the French Fourth Army under Henri Gouraud to the left of the Americans. They would attack west of the Argonne, and their job was to reach Mézières. Much like the defenses facing the Americans, the ones facing the French would be pretty tough. But this was going to involve a lot of transportation of men and material. A couple 100,000 French troops would have to come out of the Meuse-Argonne sector, and over 500,000 men into it, mainly Americans. There were just
USA.
3 roads that covered the 100 kilometers between the 2 impending battle zones. The movement would happen at night, but of course, you still had to set up all the other stuff. The airfields, the hospitals, some railways, all of that. Some numbers now from David Stevenson's With Our Backs to the Wall.
I like numbers.
By the beginning of
sometimes. As long as we're not talking about like kilometers and stuff like that, in the sense of like they moved this far, and they were pushed from this sector to this. I don't understand that. That's too many. You mean like, I don't know, other nice numbers.
September, the French estimated that the Germans had 44 reserve divisions in the west. The Allies had 75. This is a huge shift in the balance of power over just like 6 weeks. The German army on the Western Front took 228,000 casualties in August 1918, but only got 130,000 replacements. G.J. Meyer points out that of those 228,000, 110,000 were listed as missing, which is a nice way of saying that they, or most of them, deserted.
Oh, damn.
When newly captured troops arrived at the holding pens created by the Allies for their growing hordes of prisoners, those already inside welcomed them with cheers. The impossibility of a German victory had become clear to all the senior commanders on the Allied side and to most of their German counterparts. Germany's only hope, if any hope remained, was to take action on the diplomatic front before it, like Austria-Hungary, had nothing left to offer. But the Germans in the West weren't the only...
That statement goes hard. Like, Austria-Hungary is too far gone now, where they have no leverage whatsoever to get a peace in any way whatsoever that is status quo for them. Germany still has some sort of leverage, because they still have fighting going on in Africa. They still have a general active down there, I think. And of course, they still hold Belgium and a chunk of France. And then, of course, they do have, the countries on their east that separate them from Soviet Russia. So, yeah, Germany still has some negotiating room. But I don't think the Kaiser is going to do anything.
Only ones thinking that victory was impossible. The Ottomans attacked the British outside of Baku again the 31st, and again the British were mauled by superior numbers of infantry and artillery. The Armenian reserve battalions refused to go into the line, though, which caused British commander Lionel Dunsterville to decide that future defense of the oil city was a waste of time and lives. He told the 5 dictators of the Centro-Caspian dictatorship that he and his men were soon to evacuate the city, since nothing could stop the Ottomans from taking it. And down in Africa, German General von Lettow-Vorbeck's forces were attacked on the upper Lurio River near Anguros by 2 British columns. He retreats after heavy losses in killed and captured. And that's the week. Ever further advances on the Western Front as the Germans retreat to their mightiest defenses. Ottoman successes in the Caucasus and Allied success in Russia, even as an Allied plot sparks a wave of official terror. Officially declared by the government. Like they said, now we're going to have a terror campaign and kill lots of people who probably did nothing and will consolidate power by fear. And that sounds like something genuinely diabolical, but compared to what else was going on, it really wasn't. Just one of those things that happens in 1918. Madmen and butchers lead new nations. Relics of a long ago age lead the old ones. Tens of thousands of people die pretty much daily from influenza, and hundreds of thousands of people die monthly from the Great War. Same old, same old. If you want...
I feel like India and I would get along quite well. I think we'd be good buddies. Anyways, that was the Red Terror in Soviet Russia, the Great War, week 215. Had a lot of yapping from me this week. Felt good. It felt good to get all that out of my chest, just to fucking blurt it out. But yeah, that's that. That said, I hope you guys enjoyed. Remember to hit that like button and subscribe for more. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.